Good evening, people.
Good evening, sir. How are you?
Good evening. I'm
Good
just
evening, sir.
evening, just about pulling through. I'm barely getting any sleep. 3 hours is my maximum in the last 2, 3 days. Chalo. We are here for doing one question on corporate failure and internal reconstruction. काफी अलग टाइप का क्वेश्चन है. It's a little older question, huh, by the way. This is not a new question. This is an older question. But काफी different है. So if something like this comes, maybe not exactly like this, but if in this category कुछ अगर आपको पूछा जाता है तो it will give you a better understanding of approach कैसे करना है, where बहुत structured नहीं है. अलग टाइप का क्वेश्चन है यूजुअली, अदरवाइज इन द लास्ट टू क्वेश्चंस दैट वी सॉ दे सेड कि हाँ, कैलकुलेट द वैल्यू ऑफ द सेल ऑफ दिस डिविजन, देन इम्पैक्ट ऑन द प्रोजेक्टेड फाइनेंशियल्स, इम्पैक्ट ऑन प्रोजेक्टेड आपका अर्निंग्स पर शेयर एंड ऑल ऑफ दैट. हियर द क्वेश्चन स्टाइल इज डिफरेंट, विच इज व्हाई आई थॉट कि ये क्वेश्चन कर लेते हैं. At the end of the class today, do remind me to talk to you about the list that I have shared on the group. It's important. Now, evaluate the options for disposing of parts of staple group using the financial information to assess possible disposal prices. The evaluation should include a discussion of the benefits and drawbacks to staple group from disposing of parts of the staple group. Briefly discuss the significance of the finance director's proposals for reduction in staff cost for staple group's relationships with its shareholders and employees, and discuss the ethical implications of the proposal. ये एथिकल इम्प्लीकेशंस तो नया है, बट लेट्स लुक एट द अदर पार्ट्स. पूछा क्या है? इवैल्यूएट द ऑप्शंस फॉर डिस्पोजिंग ऑफ पार्ट्स ऑफ द स्टेपल ग्रुप. इवैल्यूएट मींस प्रोज एंड कॉन्स दोनों देखना पड़ेगा आपको. यूजिंग द फाइनेंशियल इंफॉर्मेशन टू असेस possible disposal prices. The evaluation should include a discussion of the benefits and drawbacks to staple group from disposing of parts of the staple group. Staple Group is one of Barland's biggest media groups. It consists of four divisions organized as follows: Staple National, the national newspaper, the Daily Staple. The division's revenues and operating profits have decreased for last 2 years. Staple Local, a portfolio of 18 local and regional newspapers. This division's operating profits have fallen for last 5 years, and operating profits and cash flows are forecast to be negative in the next financial year. Other newspaper groups with local titles have also reported significant falls in profitability recently. Then Staple View, a package of digital channels showing sporting events and programs for a family audience. Staple Group's board has been pleased with this division's recent performance, but it believes that the division will only be able to sustain a growth rate of 4% in operating profits and cash flows unless it can buy the rights to show more major sporting events. Over the years, Staple View's biggest competitor in this sector has acquired two smaller digital broadcasters. Staple Investor, fourth category है, established from a business which was acquired 3 years ago. This division offers services for investors, including research, publications, training events, and conferences. The division gained a number of clients over the last year and has thus shown good growth in revenues and operating profits. Some of Staple Group's institutional investors have expressed concern about the fall in the profitability of two newspaper divisions. The following summarized data relates to the group's last accounting year. The percentage changes in pre-tax profits and revenues are changes in the most recent figures compared with the previous year. ठीक है. The following summarized data relates to the group's last accounting year. Percentage changes in pre-tax profits and revenues are changes in the most recent figures compared with the previous year. So that is the distinction. ठीक है. परसेंटेज चेंज क्या है? मोस्ट रीसेंट फिगर, मतलब उसके जो पहले का ईयर था, इट इज अबाउट दैट. रेवेन्यूज इंक्रीज डिक्रीज, प्री टैक्स प्रॉफिट्स परसेंटेज इंक्रीज डिक्रीज, post tax cash flow, share of group net assets, share of group long term liability. Staple Group's board regards the Daily Staple as a central element of the group's future. Daily Staple, which is the national newspaper. ठीक है. The directors are currently considering a number of investment plans, including development of digital platforms for daily staple. Excuse me. The finance director has costed the investment program at 150 million. The board would prefer to fund the investment program by disposing parts or all of the other divisions. The following information is available to help assess the value of each division. One of Staple Group's investors, Postway Company, has contacted Staple Group's directors asking if they would be interested in selling 15 of the local and regional newspapers for 60 million. Okay. Staple Group's finance director believes this offer is low and wishes to use the net asset valuation method to evaluate a minimum price for the Staple local division. Staple Group's finance director believes that a valuation using free cash flows would provide a fair estimate of the Staple View division. ये अलग division का बात हो रहा है. ठीक है. Over the last year, investment in additional non-current assets for Staple View division has been 12.5 million and incremental working capital investment has been 6.2. These investment levels will have to increase at 4% annually in order to support the expected sustainable increases in operating profit and cash flow. Staple Group's finance director believes that the valuation of the Staple Investor division needs to reflect the potential it derives from the expertise and experience of its staff. The finance director has calculated a value of 118.5 million for this division based on the earnings made last year, but also allowing for additional earnings, which he believes that the expert staff in the division will be able to generate in future. Okay. So there are four different divisions and they have strategies for each of the divisions. Assume a risk adjusted all equity financed cost of capital of 12% at a tax rate of 30%. Goodwill should be ignored in any calculations. Staple Group's finance and human resources directors are looking at the staffing of the two newspaper divisions. The finance director proposes dismissing most staff who have worked for the group for less than 2 years. 2 years employment being when staff would be entitled to enhanced statutory employment protection. The finance director also proposes a redundancy program for long serving staff, selecting for redundancy employees who have complained particularly strongly about recent changes in working conditions. There is a commitment in Staple Group's annual report to treat employees fairly, communicate with them regularly, and enhance employee performance by structured development. Now, बहुत लंबा क्वेश्चन ऐसा लग रहा है कि यार वी हैव बीन रीडिंग फॉर सो लॉन्ग, which is why you should evaluate. Should you read the entire question? पूरा क्वेश्चन पढ़ना चाहिए कि पार्ट्स में पढ़ना चाहिए? पूछा क्या है? इवेल्युएट द ऑप्शंस फॉर डिस्पोजिंग ऑफ पार्ट्स ऑफ स्टेपल ग्रुप. ठीक है. सो don't you think your answer and its quality will be greatly enhanced if you are able to focus on one division at a time? Evaluate the options for disposing parts using the financial information to assess possible disposal prices. एक एक division उठाओ, उसका disposal price निकालो, and then try to comment on that. Start with staple local, then think of benefits of selling staple local, drawbacks of selling staple local. उससे क्या होगा? Benefits, drawbacks, evaluation होगा, pros and cons का बात होगा. You should always understand the verb in the question. Here the verb says evaluate. Plus there are four specific divisions given and information has been given to you in paragraphs, which means attack one paragraph at a time, attack one division at a time and tackle it. Now what has happened? You have read the question for 15 minutes, realizing that I don't remember what I read 2 minutes ago. I don't remember what I read in the first para. I don't remember anything, which means now I have to waste time all over again. So double time waste hoga. In such cases, knowing how to read the question is also very important. Okay. Let's start with staple local. Okay. Staple national, sorry. Staple Group's board regards the daily staple as central element of the group's future. The directors are currently considering a number of investment plans, including the development of digital platforms for the daily staple. The finance director has costed the investment program at 150 million. So how much will be the investment in this? The investment here will be 150 million. Okay. Now, the board would prefer to fund the investment program by disposing parts or all of the other divisions. तो ये जो daily staple है, that is what they think is central to the company. So they think, let's not to fund daily staple, we'll not borrow money, but we'll sell some other division. ठीक है. तो staple national is the heartbeat of the company, which makes the daily staple. ठीक है. तो staple national is what they want to save. For that they have the national newspaper, the daily staple. And ये जो daily staple है, यहाँ पे ऑब्जर्व, हाँ, the board would prefer to fund the investment program by disposing parts or all of the other divisions. So to fund the new investment of 150 million in daily staple, there are three options available to you. What are these options? Something with staple local, something with staple view, something with staple investor. One of the group's competitors, Postway Company, has contacted Staple Group's directors asking if they would be interested in selling 15 of the local and regional newspapers for 60 million. Staple Group's finance director believes this offer is low and wishes to use the net asset valuation method to evaluate a minimum price. Up come to Staple Local. It has a portfolio of 18 local and regional newspapers. 18 newspapers है जिसमें से the competitor wants to purchase 15. The division's operating profits have fallen for the last 5 years, and operating profits and cash flows are forecast to be negative in the next financial year. Other newspaper groups with local titles have also reported significant falls in profitability. ठीक है. Look at local. 151.7 is revenue. These have decreased. Pre-tax profits are 4.5. They have decreased by 12.6%. Share of group net assets is 66.6. Total net asset is 66.6. Okay. And this is for 18 newspapers. उसमें से you are selling 15 newspapers. तो उसका let's calculate the net asset value. Division का pre-tax profits are 4.5 million and post-tax cash flow is 0.3 with losses forecast for the next year. So they have specifically mentioned ना कि फ्यूचर में लॉसेस होंगे are forecast to be negative, which means valuation using net assets would be a better way out. Don't you think? If you value using profits or projected profits, तो those are apparently going to be negative in the future. तो आप losses के basis पे valuation करोगे बहुत ही कम आएगा. It's easier, right now use the net asset valuation method, sell the division and make your life simpler. So let's talk about that. Evaluation of sale of staple local. ठीक है. Value of net assets of 18 or value of net assets of staple local. Basically, this is portfolio of 18 newspapers. ठीक है. What is the value? 66.6 million. Okay. So, what is the value of net assets of 15 newspapers? That will be 66.6 into 15 by 18, 55.5 million. 55.5 million. I will write it here. 66.6 into 15 by 18. ठीक है. This is the value of net assets of 15 newspapers. Now, it is assumed that all 18 newspaper divisions are of the same size. ठीक है. Then pre-tax profits are 4.5 million, right? And post-tax cash flows are expected to be or expected to be are 0.3 million. ठीक है. And this division is expected to incur losses in the future. So, valuation based on net assets is likely to give a better value as compared to value based on profitability. ठीक है. अब now let's talk about the benefits of selling the division and the drawbacks. Now look at this. ये चारों में से what do you think is the biggest problem for the company? Staple National though is not a problem. Look at local, view, and investor. Staple View, I don't think has delivered a bad performance. Staple Investor is established from a business which was acquired 3 years ago. It offers services for research, publications, blah, blah, blah. It has gained a number of new clients and has shown good growth in revenue. Staple Local seems to be a problematic vertical, right? So if you sell off a problematic vertical, I mean, this seems to be the poorest performing division. Na? So I think it's best to sell that division off instead of facing further decline in the future. Now, the net asset value is 55.5 million. Somebody is willing to give you 60 million. It's a chance to get cash immediately, right? And they are buying 15 newspapers. They are like 18 में से बड़ा portfolio they are taking away. This is a good offer. Think of it. If you say no to this offer, in the future you have to sell one division. Piecemeal basis पे sale करना पड़ेगा. That might be a problem. Because finding the right buyer, negotiating 18 times, उससे अच्छा है negotiate once for 15 newspapers at least. So that is one of the benefits that you could think of. And see, think about it. There's a channel like Star. Okay. Now Star has so many different you know languages. Star Plus, Star मतलब मराठी में है Star Pravaha. There is one in Bangla. There is South में Star के channels है and all of that. So selling each channel separately versus selling the entire portfolio of entertainment channels to someone, it would be an easier deal to crack. So that is one of the benefits you could think of. But we are not only talking about benefits, we should also be looking at the drawbacks of selling this particular division. What do you think could be a drawback of selling मतलब the staple local wala division? कुछ तो problem होगा, right? Let's try to understand what that problem is. Up, see, the value that they are offering you, net asset value is 55.5 million. They are offering you 60 million. So it's not as if it's a significant amount over and above the net asset value. Then amount of cash from the see what their intention was ki whatever money we get out of this, we will use it to fund the other expansion of 150 million. They are getting 60 million. So apparently that money is also not enough, right? Now the digital platforms that you are trying to build, that is the intention, right? You want to build digital platforms which will be used to boost the local newspapers. Now for that, you already have local newspapers, right? You already have staff in different languages in different areas. You want that skill to develop the digital platform, as you can see here, and you are selling the division that has the most grassroots level connect. तो वो एक ड्रॉबैक होगा कि यार we want to develop digital platforms for the daily staple, and that will need an on ground connect, and the one division which has on ground connect, you are trying to sell that off. So this answer, by the way, looks very very SBL chap to me. It doesn't look like an AFM answer. I mean, what calculation did you do so far? You didn't do any great calculation or any great evaluation. तो ये आंसर जो है ना, ये काफी एसबीएल छाप लगा मुझे so far, because there are no calculations. You are just commenting on pros and cons and all of that. Isn't that what you do in SBL? Pretty much the same, right? So think about See, there are certain questions in AFM which, if they come in this particular way, I mean, it's a treat for you because there is no formula, no forex future, no options, nothing. Just analyze the information and comment on the basis of that. ठीक है. अब what is the second proposal? Staple Group's finance director believes that a valuation using free cash flows would provide a fair estimate of the value of the Staple View division. Over the last year, investment in additional non-current assets for Staple View has been 12.5 million and incremental working capital investment has been 6.2 million. These investment levels will have to increase at 4% annually in order to support the expected sustainable increases in operating profit and cash flow. ठीक है. अब additional investment in non-current assets है, additional investment in working capital है. What is the we are talking about staple view. ठीक है. Post tax cash flows are 53.5. From 53.5, if we subtract 12.5 and 6.2, we'll get free cash flow to equity, right? है ना? करो calculate free cash flow to equity. 53.5, let's write it down. Staple view. Free cash flow to equity is post-tax cash flow minus investment in non-current assets minus investment in working capital. ठीक है. So free cash flow to equity. What are post-tax cash flows? 53.5 minus 12.6 minus 12.6 ही है ना? ये कितना है? 12.5 and 6.2. ठीक है. कितना आएगा बताओ?
34.8.
30
4.8.
34.8. ठीक है. ये हो गया. फ्री कैश फ्लो तो हो गया. These investment levels will have to increase at 4% annually in order to support the expected sustainable increase in operating profit and cash flows. So, now what you have to do is you have to calculate the value of the division. You have cost of capital. ठीक है. Growth rate is given as 4%. This is cost of equity. Growth rate is given. I am sure you can calculate free cash flow to equity. Sorry, you can calculate the value of the division. Value of the division using so 34.8, which is the current free cash flow, into 1 plus 4% divided by 12% minus 4%. ठीक है. कितना होगा बताओ?
452.4.
Now, if you observe, these investment levels will have to increase at 4% annually in order to support the expected sustainable increases. The assumption of constant growth rate is important. See, if it doesn't happen this way, then that valuation target will not be achieved, right? So that is one point that you should write that will highlight commercial acumen. है ना? कि this whole calculation is based on the assumption that the 4% growth rate will be achieved. And if you are not able to do that, then naturally the entire valuation will go for a toss. ठीक है. अब benefits and drawbacks. What do you think? Should you, shouldn't you? See, right now you are riding on a high. Correct. You are riding on a good profitability, good cash flow wala position. This might be a good opportunity to sell off the entity or sell off the vertical. See, other acquisitions have started happening. So this might be your opportunity to know कि यार the sector is getting intense, let's withdraw from the sector, and the money will be more than enough, by the way. But the point is, selling such an important division which has been generating profits for you uh, might not be the best call, right? Instead of spending money on the national newspaper, daily staple, don't you think you should focus more on this vertical because this has shown the best growth, right? If you invest here, see, operating profits have decreased over the last 2 years. You are trying to revive a vertical that is slightly going down by selling off a vertical that is doing really well. What kind of commercial acumen is that? Is my question, right? Doesn't make sense. So might not be the best decision to sell off this particular division. कि जो अच्छा चल रहा है उसको आपको बेचना है. Why? Because you believe that something else is your passion project. Why would you want to do that? Why would anyone in his right mind want to do that? People should ideally think of, as in this company should ideally think of, maybe developing this particular division better. And see, this is again a point that should not be the main focus, but you should definitely talk about it. Here, print media is dying, na? Whichever world you are in, print media is dying. Television and electronic television media is also dying, by the way. Media is here, है ना? So that understanding, थोड़ा सा you can write about it, but not too much. उस पे पूरा आंसर मत बनाना. ठीक है? Are you with me, all of you?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
The reason for taking this question is कि यार it is anything like an AFM question. लगता ही नहीं है कि AFM का क्वेश्चन है, तो पता होना चाहिए ना. एंड सी देयर इज अ रीजन आई टेल यू नॉट टू डू ओल्डर क्वेश्चंस. ये देखो, मार्च जून 16 का क्वेश्चन है, वे बिफोर इवन आई एंटर्ड ACCA. I was entering ACCA. I entered ACCA a little after this as a student myself. बहुत पुराना क्वेश्चन है. ऐसे क्वेश्चंस तो अभी कम आते हैं, आई वुड से. ठीक है. एंड Staple Group's finance director believes that the valuation of Staple Investor Division needs to reflect the potential it derives from the expertise and experience of its staff. The finance director has calculated a value of 118.5 million for this division based on the earnings made last year, but also allowing for additional earnings, which he believes that the expert staff in the division will be able to generate in the future years. ठीक है. Has calculated a value of 118.5 million for this division. ठीक है. Now see, what is this 118.5 million based on? Based on earnings made last year, but allowing for additional earnings which he believes that the expert staff in the division will be able to generate in the future years. Do you think this method of valuation is a scientific method or it's a sensible method in any way? कहीं पे लग रहा है ऐसा कि ये method sensible है?
No, sir.
What is the problem in this method? बताइए.
सर लाइक जो एडिशनल अर्निंग है जो स्टाफ करेगा तो उसके लिए एक वैलिड बेसिस या कुछ इंडिकेटर्स नहीं दिए है कि मतलब कितना जनरेट करेगा स्टाफ या फिर क्या परफॉर्म करेगा.
Correct. That a premium for additional earnings, but you should have some information, right? As you correctly pointed out, there is no information about that given in any way. So how do we rely on this number, right? That's a problem. But if you sell this division, what is the sale value like? He has valued it at 118.5. But this seems like a growing division. Why? Because it has gained a number of clients over the last year and has thus shown good growth. So there is a possibility here you will be able to fetch a good price for this vertical. ये वर्टिकल के लिए आपको एक अच्छा प्राइस मिल सकता है बिकॉज द डिविजन हैज परफॉर्म्ड रियली वेल. ठीक है. सो दैट्स ऑल्सो अनदर पॉइंट कि division has performed well, so that means it has good growth potential. Talk about that. What else can you talk about? As in terms of a benefit, it's not necessary that there has to be a benefit apart from this. But एक और point that I can think about is कि see, this is a specialist sector which is in a way not so closely connected with the other three businesses that you are running. So, selling it off might make more sense because, उसके लिए जो expertise that you need, you probably don't have that expertise in your division right now. ठीक है? So, in your company, you don't have that level of expertise. So, selling it off makes way more sense. Right? Then drawbacks. If you observe, look at this data. It has the high, यहाँ पे देखो, pre-tax profits में this one has slowed down, this one has slowed down, this one has a growth of 7.4, but investor division has a growth of 19.1% in pre-tax profits, 1% जो भी है, 19.1%. Then in terms of increase or decrease in in revenues, I think investor division has registered the highest growth in revenues, which the other divisions haven't been able to, right? So, selling a division that is right now growing the most in revenue terms, selling the division that probably has the highest growth rate of profits might not be the best decision for the company to take, right? You should probably give up that passion project of print newspapers and focus on this. Also, there is no valuation that has been agreed upon right now, है ना? So you don't know at exactly what value it will get sold. As Sayyid pointed out, the share of liabilities is the lowest in this division. I mean, look at View, look at National, look at Local. Investor division has the least amount of liabilities, right? So, ऐसा डिवीजन आपको क्यों बेचना है, which is probably doing better than all the other divisions and which has the highest potential because they added a lot of new clients, right? यहाँ पे लिखा है ना, they added a lot of new clients. Now, if this growth is sustainable, this is a point that you should always mention कि यार growth sustainable है क्या? What do you mean by growth is sustainable? Will you be able to achieve the same numbers in the future? Will you give us or will you have the ability to generate same numbers in the future? That is what we mean by sustainable. So that is a point, that you will have to evaluate. And anyway, the manager has pegged the value at 118.5 million, okay, which is anyway not enough because you want how much? You want 150 million. Utna to this is not generating for you. So you might as well not sell the division. Plus, it has so much potential. Here, selling that might not be the best idea. So you will have to be careful in terms of how you answer these points. Now, people who have written skill level ka PM, I'm sure you will be able to find points of commonality between this and the performance measurement question that you would get in section C of PM, right? Similar type of question comes. This might even be like an APM question if you really think about it. But दिया कहाँ पर है? They have given it under corporate failure and internal reconstruction. इसमें कुछ भी concept हमने use किया? Did we perform any calculation? No. Did we use any concept that we have studied? No. This was a common sense based question, which means if it does come in the paper, then that's like, an added bonus for you. The second part of the question is about stakeholder conflict. I want you to read that part carefully on your own. It's a theoretical part. I have still not covered that in my theory recordings, by the way. वो मैंने अभी तक नहीं किया है. I will be covering that. But it's like very common sense, knowledge level type of concept as stakeholder conflict. So read that carefully and that should be it. ठीक है. So that's pretty much the long and short of this question. Quite different, quite unusual, and hardly like an AFM question. Okay. Now I want to discuss the message that I had sent on the group today. Okay, so let's discuss that. I'm switching off the recording.